What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Pursuit of Growth in the Lawn series. Let's grow together. So last Friday, March 21st, I cut my lawn for the first time, and I cannot believe how far ahead my lawn is from my neighbors' lawns. Now, a lot of my neighbors have crazy steep hillsides with zoysia, and it'll be months before they're cutting for the first time. But a lot of my other neighbors have a cool season mix throughout their lawns, and I'm at least a week or so ahead of them. They're just now, a week later, starting to get a little bit bushy, and from what you'll see in the videos, my lawn was definitely overgrown in spots in need of a first cut. The second thing I did, and I did not film this, is because it was such a last-minute decision, I put my first round of Sunnyland prodiamine pre-emergent down. Again, I didn't film that because it was a very last-minute decision based on weather patterns, but when we get to our second split out, I'll have a more detailed video for you on that. I also got my Yard Mastery soil sample kit results back in, so we'll take a quick look at that and see how we're going to develop a plan moving forward through the rest of the season. And before we get into it, I'll just say that I'm over the moon excited at the results. After 1 year, you know, last year I took up a soil fertility based program using Carbon Earth for my macros and Green County fertilizer and soil amendment products for the soil fertility portion, and the results I've seen in just 1 year from that, and as we'll see in the soil sample, are unbelievable. I couldn't be more happy about it, and though there's plenty of empirical and visual data to show me that my lawn's waking up faster than everybody else's, it has a deeper color. It's just ahead of every other neighbor in my area by at least a week or two, and that's all a result of nurturing the soil level and not just throwing high amounts of nitrogen and things like that. So with that being said, let's get into the cutting video, and we'll come back into the studio for the sample results. observations, this is definitely early for this time of year to be getting the amount of grass you just saw come out of a bag. And while we're on that topic, I always like to bag my first cutting because there's so much, you know, I spent about 2 hours out here raking a little bit, but there's always going to be debris in the yard, especially when you have trees. There's a good bit of garbage that throughout the winter just blows into the yard because of where it sits on this hill. And it's just, I personally like to bag the first cutting just to pick up any leaves, debris, anything that might have been left behind throughout the winter season. The thing that you'll notice is there's some spots in the lawn that are a little yellow after we took some good bit of blade off of it. And that's okay, that's just different parts of the turf waking up at different times. It might even be a little bit of scalping. I am cutting pretty low, and I always like to cut the first cutting low. Not an intentional scalping, but I do like to, it's like a way for me to like reset everything on an even plane, because the clumping fescue within the yard is shooting up at a rate way faster than the rest of the lawn in the good cultivars of tall fescue, and that's nothing new. That happens every year. Tall clumping fescue grows like that, man. So I like to come in and cut everything a little bit lower than I will be throughout the spring, just because it gives the lawn a nice clean reset. So like I said, it's March 21st, a bit early to be out cutting for this area in the Pittsburgh and the southwestern Pennsylvania region. But the signs are all there, and it's difficult when you've gone off of certain things, but you're also saying, well, this feels early. It definitely feels early. But as you can see how much turf we just took off here, it needed to be done. The forsythias are starting to bloom. I got buds on my trees. And even though statistically it's definitely early this year, that's okay. We're going to adjust. Even with all that being said, a lot of people will say, it's too early to be cutting your grass. Well, gee, I don't know. Is it? Strange year. Strange year. So once we head over to the Yard Mastery soil test website and log back into the same program you used to register, and you scroll down, you'll notice that the status has gone from registered to completed, and you'll get an email from Yard Mastery when your soil test is completed. Once we're in looking at our results, the first thing you'll come to, and again, yours might be a little different than mine because I'm using a screen capture device, but the first thing it'll bring you to is a very easy to read and understand bar graph table showing you exactly what micro and macronutrients were available at the time of testing. It also shows your pH, but we'll get back to that later. Next, it'll show you recommended fertilizers and amendments that you can buy. And the great thing about this is these are actual specific products on Yard Mastery's website. They're not just generic things that you're going to go looking for. They're actually available right now. And by clicking on the granular or liquid products, it'll take you right to where you need to be
and show you the same recommendations that were made on your soil test. Lastly, we have a raw soil data table, and that'll get us more a detailed inventory of each specific micro and macronutrient, as well as the range at which they're currently at. So I want to stress, this is not an instructional video. I recommend that you go check out Alan's video, as I mentioned on last week's episode. He'll really get down into the nitty-gritty of how you read and understand your soil test. But we're looking at mine so that we can develop, or I can develop, a plan moving forward for the rest of my season. And as I alluded to, I am really happy with the results I'm seeing from this test. For only using the products that I've been using for one season, the evidence that my turf is now starting to provide for itself is quite abundant in these tests. Of course, there's going to be small things like nitrogen here. I haven't made any nitrogen-based applications in my lawn since like October of last year. Of course, living in Pittsburgh, we have a winter dormancy period where it doesn't matter what you throw on your lawn. It's just not going to be there when we come out of winter dormancy. One thing I really like about the Yard Mastery Test is it is so easy to understand. So I'm not going to get into the obviousness of what all this means, this data set that we're looking at right here. We'll come back to pH because I've got my own opinions about pH and soil levels. But taking nitrogen from the above bar graph, you can see that my results are currently, at the time of testing, 3.12 parts per million. And it's telling us over in the optimal range category that optimal is between 7 to 18 parts per million. And then it gives you such an easy to see, hey, it's low. You can't get any more clear than that. Comparing that to the pH, we are in the optimal range. Moving back up to the bar graph because it's the easiest to visualize on a computer screen. And again, we want to stay within these two optimal ranges here. So what exactly am I going to be doing to try to get as many of these as possible into and stay in the optimal range? Well, the beauty is there's no guesswork to be done. All we simply do is look one data point below that, and we've been given recommended soil amendments as well as fertilizers to correct any deficiencies we might have within our lawn. I really like it because these are real products. It's with a lot of other soil sample tests, it'll just say, example, Carbonex. It won't give you a specific product. It'll just say, hey, put down a 2404. The great thing about this soil test being done in conjunction with Yard Mastery is that it recommends specific products that are available on Yard Mastery's website. So when we're looking at what it's recommended for my yard, it's recommending that I put down Carbonex, which is a 2404, again, NPK rating. Or if I wanted to go the liquid route, Greene County Fertilizers Green Punch, which is an 1801. So the first thing you'll notice is that both the recommended products have a 0 value for the phosphorus. And when we scroll back up and look, that makes sense because our phosphorus, we don't need P. We don't need phosphorus. It's actually almost above the optimal range. So we wouldn't want to put any more of this down. If you were to have a graph like this and continue to put down Milorganite, for example, Milorganite has a phosphorus base to it. So it's going to shoot this phosphorus up even more when we don't need any more. We just need nitrogen and potassium. Going back down, it makes sense that the products that are recommended to us have a 0 for the phosphorus. It'll give us, in the case of the Carbonex, it'll give us a 24 nitrogen, a 0 phosphorus, and the potassium at 4. And similarly with the liquid Greene County product, an 18 for nitrogen, a 0 for phosphorus, and the potassium at 1. So neither one of these products will affect our phosphorus levels, and that's good. We don't want to add anything that we don't really need. It also recommends a micronutrient application, or it says it'll be beneficial. And that's what will raise our micronutrients that we're deficient in, like our iron. So again, it's really convenient that they have a block that recommends specific products that are available right now for order. You don't even have to go on and find them yourself. You can click on these links right here and it'll take you right to these products. They've really taken any of the guesswork out of this, and that's a great thing. The last thing I want to talk about is the pH. And I'm lucky that in my case, I'm within the optimal range. Barely, but I'm still there. I think people might see a super low pH and get really upset about it. But when it comes to pH, and it is something that we definitely want to do what we can to get into the optimal range, but a lot of people see pH and they immediately want to go out and try to fix that. It's the most difficult and time-consuming one of all of these to change. Just bringing your pH up by a few points could take hundreds of pounds of product. If you were to add lime, it may take 100 pounds per 1,000 square feet of lime, and it really makes no guarantee that that'll actually raise your pH very much at all. So we'll come back to this graph as we get closer and closer to making our first applications in the lawn. Remember, I already did put out my pre-emergent, which is the Sunnyland product, and that does have some K value in it. So we'll already be seeing a boost in our potassium levels. But as we come into the spring season, I'll be looking to apply Carbon Earth CX DIY, which is one of the recommended granulars, and that's where we'll get the base for our NPK for the beginning of the season. I'll also be applying Green County Fertilizers micronutrient blend, and that'll raise all of our micronutrients up to a more appropriate level. I'm not concerned with any of the higher level ones because the inputs of micronutrients are so slight, it's really not going to shoot this zinc, for example, much higher off the charts. The last thing I want to say is please remember, do not get analysis paralysis, as it's known, from these data points. As I alluded to last episode, we want to make informed decisions, but this is just one piece of the puzzle. You still need to use the visual cues within your lawn. pH is a great example of that. If your pH is not within the optimal range, but your lawn looks good, it has deep color, it grows, it fends off disease pretty well, don't concern yourself with it. I did not concern myself at all with pH, and this is the first time I've done a soil sample test, so I don't know where it was at the beginning of last season when I really started making big strides in my lawn. But it does stand to reason, and there is evidence out there that by nurturing the micro and macronutrients over time, our pH can change.
So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the In the Lawn series. We're bringing you much more content as the lawn continues to wake up and we drive further into spring. And I'm looking to get my first macronutrient fertilizer app down in the coming weeks. So stick around for that. We got much more and a whole season ahead right here on the Pursuit of Growth. Hey, one quick note. The links that you find to the Yard Mastery website for the products that I use are affiliate links. I'd appreciate it so much if you needed a product to go through them. It really helps me out. I get a small percentage of any traffic I send their way. And as I've said before, I have a whole season of using these products under my belt. I know they work, and I know you'll get great results for them. So please feel free to use the links provided below and all the other links to Yard Mastery as we move forward throughout the season.